Hello, my name is Maria Lucena, and I would like to present my Capstone project. Now, I will try to keep this presentation to under 10 minutes if possible. I'd like to go over what I did, the planning of the project. I'd like to give a quick demo and walk you through the code. Now, as you know, for my Capstone project, I wanted to create a website that women that want to work remotely and also level up can do so by using this tool. The main goal is helping women who want to work remotely find jobs. There's also a component of learning, which I limited so that I could complete the project on time. Now we know that women earn 85 cents for every dollar a man earns. This is from the 5 facts about the state of gender pay gap. This is something that is very dear to me. I have been following this issue for a few years now. And as a woman in technology who has faced this as well, I am trying to do something, not just about learning and discussing it, but I want to also add back to the community. And this project, while it's not fully blown, I hope it's a basis for something bigger. Something that also I learned is that the income, the money that is produced by the industry, by the job market industry, it's of $250 million as reported by Indeed. Now, going back to my process for planning and creating the project, I used tools that I was familiar with. I chose to use GitHub because I've been using it as a developer for a few years now. It's a pretty common tool in the industry. And even though at work we use a paid version of it, it's still a tool that I'm comfortable with. I'm comfortable with Git. It makes things easy, and GitHub actually has added so many features on its website that it makes it usable for planning a project and tracking it. So I use a Kanban board that they offer to add my stories, break down what my work and how I was going to spend every week, or every time I sat down to do something, I use that as a guide to help me get the project done. I would like to briefly go over the stories that I've created, and they are mostly complete. Some things like connecting to LinkedIn and doing a little bit of controlling maintenance, I did not get all the way there, but with the basis that I have, this is something that I could work on in the future. And just a brief walkthrough of what this offers. You can see the code lives here, and then there is a wiki where I've documented everything I've done, all of my research, my breakdown, my planning, my diagrams, all of it is in here. And then the code does offer, obviously, the code base offers a view into the activities. So you can see all of the commits that I've done over the last few weeks. Now, going back to the presentation, as I did my research, I discovered that there are 3 main users I will be serving: job seekers, job creators, and content creators. And these are all users. All of them can be a job seeker, but job creators have to have a subscription, which is what hopefully from where the website will be making money from these job creators. They're first-class citizen in the sense that they are the ones paying for the platform, but job seekers are the ones we want to serve, right? These are the ones that we want to help them connect to jobs that fit their criteria, and also the ones that we want to connect to content. Content creators can be either job seekers or job creators, but they're mainly members of the community that can either create an event like a web conference or a community event, or they can just write up an article that can help women in the field either level up to some extent or in some form, or they can just inform the public of their opinion. So content creators are the ones that keep the community going. As I was going through the software development lifecycle steps, planning, analysis, implementation and then monitoring. I'm missing a face there, but as I was going through all of this for the analysis, um, I I used the tools that I've learned over the last few years, and also something that I've known for a while, right? To use ERDs, sequence diagrams, end-to-end diagrams. So I leverage all of this known things and new concepts that I've learned over the last few months, and created some diagrams that not only help me communicate what I'm trying to achieve, but also help me organize my thoughts and my idea as to who are the entities of my application and how those entities are going to interact. What are their attributes? What are their behaviors? What are the things that this is going to be revolving around? What are the main actions of the application? The design, the mocking up part of the application is a lot of fun. Obviously, I try to use some colors, bring some life into it, make it exciting and also modern. So there are a lot of very useful tools online that help you get this going fast. A lot of these things are put together. You just have to organize them in a way that makes sense to you. So it was a lot. It was very enjoyable to do, and it was easy to achieve thanks to all of the available tools. I added a link here to what I just went through in GitHub, the wiki, and then as you go on this menu, you'll see the different phases of the project, of the software development life cycle: planning, analysis, design, project implementation, controls, and maintenance. I did add a diagram. I didn't go into a lot of extent of what Cognito is doing, but Cognito actually is missing at this piece. I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough time to implement it, but I ended up making a lot of use of it. I wanted to use LinkedIn, but Cognito turned out to be pretty safe and offered all of the features that I needed. I just want to do a description of what Kanban is, what AppSync is, and Cognito. Cognito lets you add users, sign in, sign up, and just the registration process. It offers all of those tools out of the box. You can create a user pool, and it manages depending on what you set up, right? You can add password policies and what fields to require the user for registration. So all of that is managed by Cognito, by AWS. And I found a tool called Amplify, which allows you it gives you the UI component out of the box, and it allows you to leverage their library so that you can read the user content from the cloud, from AWS, the user context, and interact with Cognito. AppSync is AWS's version of GraphQL, and GraphQL is a query language for writing. It's an API query language, right? It's abstracted, but it allows you to write APIs in the form of queries. Kanban is a framework that is used for managing work. It's pretty laid back, which is what I needed, given that I'm the only one working on this. And it just gave me the space so that I could break out my work. This is the end-to-end architecture that I implement. The only thing missing, as I mentioned, is Cognito in here. But as you can see, CloudFront, this is static. The static contents are deployed to S3. And I use Beautify for creating the UI components. So a lot of that is just using Beautify tags and adding some attributes and labels so that it is customized. Beautify is a Vue.js application. Vue.js is a front-end framework. So as I was saying, this is all deployed to an S3 bucket. There are two buckets. There is one that has a www and one that is hidden. That one redirects to the public bucket. Those are fronted by CloudFront, which ensures that only the traffic that it is directed to the buckets is hitting the HTTPS path. Now I also configure a certificate with Route 53, and I registered a domain, which is remote brilliance link. So this is all secure. If a user tries to hit this by not put in the HTTPS, the policy will redirect them. This is CloudFront ensuring that only the HTTP secure traffic hits this site. All of that is configured in AWS, and it's a combination of S3 and CloudFront with Route 53 as well configurations. Lastly, the app sync part is I did use it's GraphQL schema. So what that looks like in the code. Sorry, I didn't mean to go through all of that, but this is where the code lives. So I have the cloud code, which is pretty simple. I didn't need to do much. That is the beauty of GraphQL. If you define a good schema and a usable schema, you pretty much just have to make sure that your objects are well defined, and then that when you write your mutations are your queries that are going to make changes to data. When you write your queries, these are the ones that are fetching data. So you're fetching by ID or you're fetching by filters. So this is strongly typed. You do have to define what's in the filters, what's in the was in a user input object, and so on. I did not use GraphQL subscriptions. I didn't go as far as that, but all of the input objects, I did do all mutations and queries, all three types of mutations: create, update, and activity. As in my analysis, I concluded that I only needed three types of activities. I didn't want to have to maintain a lot of data sources. So this made it simpler for me to achieve the goal that I wanted to achieve. And this is deployed through a CloudFormation template. This is also, I mostly just leverage scripts from NPM. I grouped everything together. I organized the things I wanted to organize. And then as I built my scripts, what I needed to do to get the lambdas zipped, to get the schema build. This is not something that is out of the box. This is just my design for how I wanted to break out the schemas in a form that was easier for me to maintain. I have a little script that goes and then gets all of that schema, this index file right here, reads all of that schema, and then it creates a single file. And this then is picked up by CloudFormation and pushed to the cloud. I did a similar approach for the UI. The UI, I'm using Amplify to create all of the Cognito resources for AWS because I just realized it was much easier. It's very time consuming. So when I picked up Amplify, I realized it was a lot faster to do it that way. So it does use CloudFormation and it deploys everything through the Amplify CLI. So everything I'm doing through this the console. So if I do an npm run deploy, it will build my Vue.js application, and it will push that to the S3 bucket. So that was just a couple of commands that I had to do, but I wanted to do them in a single command. So I put an npm deploy command, which in turn calls those other commands that I need. All of it, it's really very simplistic, and it's something that you can call from a you can call it from a pipeline, or Jenkins, or any of those continuous integration, continuous delivery tools. And without any further ado, I wanted to just go ahead and do a join before I wrap it up, because I know that I'm taking a little longer than I wanted to. One thing I wanted to show is I protected the the views that have or the actions that allow for changes, I protected them. And the Vue.js router, I have a check that calls Cognito and fetches a user. If there is a user, if the user is signed out, then if that is whatever the response from Cognito, if there is no user or if it's the user is signed out, then I set a flag, a global flag that will prevent the user from accessing things like content create. It will redirect them to the authentication page. Now, now you can go this little, I'm going to create an account, and I'm sorry, this is taking longer. I wanted to, but I did want to make sure that I covered this. Simple password, and I have tested this multiple times. Create account. Now this calls Cognito. This UI right here is also a UI created by Cognito, and this calls on creation. Once I confirm this, there is a Lambda that is hooked up to this event, and that Lambda is going to call a database and create an object for my my data sources, right? So I created a user database that Cognito doesn't call directly, but my Lambda calls that database with the information gathered in the Cognito ID, and then creates a new ID for that user and fills up all of the other fields that Cognito doesn't gather. Now, the only glitch that you will see here there is that I configured Cognito to bring the user back to the profile page. It doesn't quite do that. Another thing I don't have working right now is the update page, but ideally this would bring the user here, and this fields collected by Cognito cannot be changed, only address and other things of that sort. Now you can create a job, you can access this page, new, and I'll just do a quick create. Hopefully this works for me. I'll just gather a date, and all of this that you see here is done by Vue.js. Can create a job. Full stack, this is the job I just created. I can delete it, but I'm not going to delete it just yet. I can edit it. I can add a new name, and then I can update it. I will delete it now so that I can show that piece working. I didn't have a chance to complete the apply, but I did add a little bit on the things I didn't complete. Another nice thing is that Vue lets you set pretty easily with 3 lines of code a dark mode, just with an easy switch, and then a management of content. The content is the same. I use the same format for all of the forms. This would have been registration for leveling up. And so this is what I was able to produce, is what I was able to complete in the last few weeks. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity and the chance to just put my my creative juices or my creativity to work and be able to complete this project. I will leave it at that. I'm super grateful for everything that you've done for me, and just for this, the chance to work on this and take it as far as I could. Thank you. Have a good day. Recording. And